I'm going to tell you a story, and I need you to guess whether it was me or my wife, Lisa. One of us was in high school. One of us was driving a parent's car. One of us went to a friend's house. One of us stayed late. One of us was pulling out of the driveway. No drinking. One of us is pulling out of the driveway. And one of us clipped the car that was parked next to the driveway too close on the way out and kind of pulled the bumper off. Went home, went to bed. The next morning, one of us woke up and one of our parents said, "What happened to the car?" And one of us said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Lean over to the person next to you and share who you think that was. No. Keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. You're going to be surprised. You're going to be surprised. Everything I ever learned about being a pastor, I learned at a little country church called Tilton Christian Church. Love the people, still keep in contact with the people. It was a church of 35 people. There wasn't even a stoplight in the town. There wasn't even a stop sign in the town. It was a church made up of farmers, and I loved them dearly, and they taught me everything I know about being a pastor. Lesson number one, I discovered that I was an introvert at this church. When I realized, to be a pastor, I actually have to stand out there and talk to people. I'm like, what? Like everybody? Yes, everybody. And I love talking to people as long as I can have a substantive conversation. Like I do, I like meeting people and that sort of thing. But my personality is I just prefer a more substantive conversation. So if I come across as whatever, unfriendly, just understand that that's how I'm wired. But one of the gals there, and one of the leaders, she was the leader of the church, she said, "Brian, you just need to get out there and act like a politician. Just act like a politician. Just get out there and shake hands, kiss babies." And I said, "I am not going to do that." She said, "Well, too bad. It's your job. Get out there, start shaking hands and kissing babies." Well, I don't shake hands and kiss babies, but she was teaching me the importance of, hey, you only get to see people like a small amount of time during the week. Try to talk to as many people as possible. That is important. Number two, I realized from that church, don't waste stuff. This was a group of farmers, and I was also in charge of the youth group, so I found this really cool, fun, gross game there was a website called Youth Specialties, and basically it was a game where you're taking water and you're putting gross stuff in it, and then they have to transfer it with their mouth and back and forth. We're in the middle of the game, kids are having fun, and a lady drives by and sees it and goes and starts grabbing our buckets and taking them away. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, first of all, who are you? But second, what are you doing, right? And she said, "How dare you? We are in the middle of a drought, and you're wasting water like this." And I realized it was so insensitive. Much of our prayer time, when we have a prayer time in church, would be, we really need 3/4 of an acre this week. How much did you get? I had a 1/4 of an acre on mine, and then I had half an acre. And they're measuring rainfall. Their livelihoods are dependent upon the rain. And so we would pray for rain, and the next week we would come and we would ask, did God respond? And it just really developed a heart within me for ecology, sustainability, and for the plight of farmers. I love farmers because of that. And when you're a farmer, you don't waste anything. You just don't. You know how precious it is, and you're close to your food. And I learned that at that church. The third thing that I learned is that everybody keeps secrets. Now, Lisa and I have a rule that when you talk to her or you talk to me, like, we don't tell each other people just assume that, like, hey, well, I told your wife this, and you know. I'm like, no, we just had, unless it's like this, someone shares something with Lisa and it's like life altering, we have to call the police, the world's going to end, kind of a safety thing. We respect that boundary. And so we're at church on Sunday night at this small little country church. We came together on Sunday morning. It had 35 people. And then Sunday night, we came back and we did church again. Did anybody grow up in a church like that where you had Sunday morning church and Sunday night church? Let's come in the morning, let's do church and come back on Sunday night and do it twice as bad. So you have 15 people. It was like a small little Bible study. At the end of it, every single Sunday night for a year and a half, there was a woman who would grab Lisa at the end of the service and they would talk for 20 minutes. And she would be crying and there was something going on. I still don't know to this day. But it was so profoundly painful and wearisome that obviously she couldn't tell family. Obviously she couldn't tell neighbors. Obviously she couldn't tell friends. Obviously she couldn't tell anybody at work. So for a year and a half, they had a meeting after church for 20 minutes every single Sunday night. And I learned from that, everybody has secrets. 12 years ago in 2010, we did a sermon series called Dirty Little Secrets. And it was based on, do you ever remember this thing on the internet called Post Secrets, where people would write postcards to this website, and the website would then post these secrets online. And I thought, let's put a website together, make it encrypted so it's completely anonymous, which it was. We had no idea who was posting. And let's see if anybody posts their secrets. So I announced it in church. That week, it blew up. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people commenting. And then it caught online. And then people from all over, some of them were funny. I did not finish college and my family thinks I did. That's good. That's good. July 18th, 2010 at 10:01 a.m., Anonymous says, I steal money from my parents to buy weed. 2 minutes later, I steal money from anyone for weed. A little less funny, I steal money from my kids, and anytime they get a gift in the mail from someone, extended relatives, whoever, I make sure they don't know the amount. Another woman wrote, when I was in foster care and even as a young woman, I slept with over 100 boys and men, and I kept looking for love in all the wrong places. It was great to have someone say, I love you, even if they were only using me at the time. Another person said, I joined online dating sites so I can get emails from guys complimenting my looks so I can feel better about myself. I'm a 32-year-old woman, another person wrote, who feels unlovable. I haven't had a date in 10 years, and so I make myself feel good by watching porn, and I feel guilty afterwards, but I can't stop. Others were it was hard to read. I think I may have been molested as a child. I've had a few flashbacks, but I'm just not ready to deal with it yet. My life is too hectic as it is. Maybe one day I'll seek therapy. Another person wrote, my alcoholism is getting worse by the day. No one knows. I've been drinking in secret for 3 years. How do I stop? How dangerous is it to detox on your own? Is it even possible? I love Christ, but I don't feel his influence / power in my life. I seek it. Where is God when I struggle? And another, I am married to a very abusive man. Everyone likes him and would never believe me, but I know the truth. Some days I wish I were dead. It makes me hate myself so much, but there is no way out. Death is the only way, but I am not sure that I'm ready to die just yet. I still believe life can be good, just not my life. What should I do? As the old saying goes, we are only as sick as our secrets. We're in the middle of a series we're calling Light. I want to thank Frank for pinch hitting for me last week. That allowed Lisa and I to go, and I had the opportunity to marry my niece in Arizona. So it was great to be there and to see family again so soon after my father's funeral. So anyway, thank you, Frank, for preaching. We're in this series called Light, and we're talking about how people during the holiday season want to experience a good feeling, right? That's why we do this, right? You go and get trees and decorate them, and you decorate the house and have people over and give presents. You're looking to recreate every single year the tradition of euphoria. But juxtaposed to that sense of euphoria that we feel with the holidays is this anchor in our soul that is tied to darkness. That if just for a moment we can stop thinking about the darkness, we'll do that, because it's this ever-present reality. So what we want to talk about is we want to talk about how to push back against that darkness. We want to introduce light into our lives. And the passage we're going to look at today comes from the Apostle Paul's letter to the church in Ephesus. The Ephesus, I want you to think, is Philadelphia on the East Coast. Where Rome would be New York City, Ephesus is Philadelphia. And so if you can bring that video up here. In the city of Philadelphia, this is where I was a couple of years ago, you walk down this basic path. This was a covered corridor going into the city. You have markets on each side, basically people selling you stuff. You know how when you're in the mall and someone comes up to you, hello, excuse me, can I ask you a question? Would you like to have this lotion from the Dead Sea? That sort of thing, right? And so that happens all in this market here. Then you go down and there's the Library of Celsus that wasn't here at the time when the Apostle Paul was here. But then you turn the corner, and on the other side of this wall here is where people go and they make sacrifices. In the ancient world, everything that you wanted to do, any addiction you wanted to throw yourself into, any behavior, whatever you wanted to do, there was a God that cheered you on. And so the difference between Christianity and paganism in the early church in the first century in a place like Ephesus was so clear. The contrast was so stark that if you wanted to engage in sexual immorality, you wanted to go have an affair, you wanted to go have a same-sex affair, if you wanted to go to the temple and have sex with temple prostitutes, if you wanted to be greedy, if you wanted to murder, it didn't matter what you wanted to do, there was a God that you could worship that would tell you, good job, keep going. And then what happens is people get introduced to Christianity. The Apostle Paul starts a church. We're told in the book of Acts that he begins lecturing in the Hall of Tyrannus for 2 years. People think that the Hall of Tyrannus was actually a large home at the time. And you see this, what do you call this? What are those little barns and made out of steel and stuff like, what is this stuff? This wall of steel behind this. This opens up a whole area where these are excavated hillside homes of wealthy people. And Dr. Mark Wilson, who's a scholar in Turkey, believes this is where the Apostle Paul was lecturing. So as people were coming into the city, he's meeting people, he's making converts. They're engaging in whatever behavior that they wanted to engage in. And then they came and assembled together as a church. And as we've talked about before, Jesus will heal us of our sins, but it takes time to heal our memories. And so there are things you can be forgiven of, but you can still be jarred in your memory of the effects of things that you did or things that happened to you. And so he writes this letter that is just as powerful today in 2022 as it was written then. Look at what it says. Paul says, Ephesians 5, verse 8, starting, you were once darkness, meaning the streets, the city. You were once darkness, using the metaphor of darkness. You lived outside of the will of God, outside of Jesus. And you did all kinds of stuff that now you feel shame for, right? You were once in darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Not your experience in the light, you have become light. We'll get to that in a second. Live as children of, oh my gosh, I just grabbed a fly. Look at this, watch. Look at this, watch. Oh, he's dead, sorry. Okay, all right. Sorry, that's so random. Who is this guy? What is he doing? I catch flies, that's what I do. Anyway, How do I follow that? Here we go. Live as children of the light, for the fruit of the light consists in all goodness, righteousness, and truth. And find out what pleases the Lord. So everybody gets this? You had this way of living where you lived before you became a Christian. Now that you're a Christian, your goal is to find out what pleases Jesus. And what pleases Jesus? Look at what he says next. Here's what pleases Jesus. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness that you used to be a part of. Have nothing to do with that stuff, but rather, what does it say to do to it? But rather expose it. Now, there are a lot of Christians in the Christian community to take this as, this means that I am supposed to look at what people are doing in the darkness, non-Christians are doing, and call them out on it and punch them in the throat, right? Look at all this evil stuff. That's not what the Apostle Paul is saying. The way you expose it and bring it to the light is not to hold signs and pick it at a funeral. It's not to do anything other than, look at what it says next. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, rather expose them. It's shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret, meaning we used to do that stuff too. We know how bad it is. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible. And everything that is illuminated becomes a light. Paul's saying, you want to know how you can help your pagan friends that are still working in the market, they are still prostitutes in the temple, they are the lovers of large benefactors that are in the area, whatever. If you want to help those people who are stuck in paganism, you and your past must become a light for their future. You and your past must become a light for their future, and there's no way that's going to happen if you don't tell people what you used to be and do. If you keep this a secret, the people that you're trying to help that are in the darkness will never see the way. So it says, everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated in our past becomes a light to the future. This is why, as it is said, wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Okay, let's break this down. I truly believe this is going to help a lot of people here today. Because a lot of people are wondering, I've become a Christian now, what do I do with this other stuff? Just try to make myself forget about it? What am I supposed to do with this? So, Paul introduces two images, light and darkness. Light refers to what's going on outside of us, the stuff that is known to you and at least one other person that's out there, right? Something about you and your life, it's in the light, it's exposed, it's there. Darkness is in your head, what is known only to ourselves. Now, why do we keep secrets in our head in the darkness and not allow them to come out into the light? A few reasons. Number one, I'm afraid of the consequences. Let me tell you a story. Lisa went and got some Tupperware. And I began putting my lunch in it. And a couple weeks later, she said, "Where's the Tupperware?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "Well, I didn't put it anywhere." I said, "Oh, I don't know, beats me." What I should have said was, I thought it was disposable. And after every meal, I've been throwing it away. But I didn't. Why? Because say this out loud, men. I'm afraid of the consequences, right? That's very important. Oftentimes, we won't share secrets because it's too painful to bring up. Some people will ask me, what do you do for a living? This always comes out. Whenever I'm on a plane, if I'm sitting next to someone That's why I've learned if I pick the seats, I get the window seat and I make Lisa sit in the middle. And then, but if I'm in the middle or the aisle, usually, hey, what do you do? And if I don't want to talk, I will say, I'm a pastor that preaches the gospel. And that shuts them up. Their Bose headphones are on as quick as possible, right? But if I want to talk, then I give them a different answer. But I will tell people that I keep secrets for a living. Like if you tell Lisa something, like I said, I don't hear about it, and I'm not sharing, unless it's someone's safety that's at stake. And so I've lost count of the number of people that have told me what I'm about to tell you I've never told anybody else. And I count it a privilege to be able to do that, but I'm so happy because they get to bring it into the light. So Paul comes along and says, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, rather expose them. So when he uses the phrase have nothing to do with, it's the combination of two Greek words, me, which means it's a negative, and this is soon with, and koinos. We've talked about this word koinos before, right? We get our word fellowship, it's the word dirty. And what it's saying is, you want to go with people to Anna Marie's on Friday and have breakfast with people and allow them to bring their thing into the light. Share it with me. It must be very hard what's going on with your husband, whatever, and you and your girlfriend are sitting there and you're having breakfast and you're able to share. What Paul's saying is that's great. What you don't want to do is you don't want to go to the person that's tempting you or hurting you and say, hey, let's go hang out at Anna Marie's, and it makes it worse. You are getting dirty together. Don't become common dirty together. Have nothing to do with that. Stop doing that. What the Apostle Paul is thinking of is we all used to do that when you were in Ephesus. You would get up in the morning, your household, you would allow it to be cared for and your children to be educated, and you would go off to the gym and you would wrestle naked and do all kinds of stuff, and then you would go see prostitutes, and then you would come home and see your wife, and that's what you did. Now what Paul's saying is that one way to expose that is you get up, you go to your wife, you say, listen, I've been unfaithful to you, we're not going to have that kind of a marriage, and you go to work, and then when all of your friends are like, hey, let's knock off some steam, let's go to the temple, let's find some prostitutes, stuff like that, you're like, I don't do that anymore. I don't go to the strip club anymore. Rather than saying, you guys are going to hell. I've never been to a strip club. I've never seen a temple prostitute, you sinners, right? Paul's like, don't do that. Just say, I'm not going to engage in that anymore. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness. So, what happens when we keep secrets? Number one, first, secrets gain momentum. When you keep it secret, it gains momentum. When Lisa was finishing her doctoral program, I said, I'm gonna do the laundry. She said, no, you're not. You're at least not gonna do my laundry. I'm like, nope, I'm doing your laundry. So I started doing her laundry. Until one day, I was getting the laundry out of the washing machine, and I realized I had left one of my pens in my pocket, and her good white shirt was covered in ink. And so I thought for a second, how am I going to tell her? And I came up with a solution that any good Christian man would have come up with. I took that shirt and I stuffed it behind the washing machine. I'm like, I'm good until we move. When we move, then I'm gonna have to pull that out and explain it to her. But that's gonna buy me at least 7 years, right? Where's my white shirt? Man, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I feel bad. I feel bad. Man, that's a shame. You love that shirt. And it was a great plan until I left another pen in my pants and ruined a second shirt. At that point, did I take the shirt and stuff it behind the washing machine? Of course I did. That's exactly what I did. And anyway, after first service, I went back because she was getting ready to go out the next step. She said, I love that shirt. I love that shirt. Okay. I love what our band, when they sang that song, they said, I've been afraid of changing because I've built my life around you, but time gets older, but time makes you bolder, the children get older, and I'm getting older too. It's about a relationship, right? I'm with you, we were young, and I didn't realize how bad you were for me. And as the years went on, the cement hardened around my feet, and then when we had kids, I was like, well, I can't leave now, I'm gonna screw up their lives, and I'm gonna do blah, 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 that sort of thing, and I'm gonna stick it out, right? And so the secret of I'm stuck with this horrible person, it just keeps going because the consequences get bigger and bigger and bigger. You're gaining momentum, right? And then as the song says, you finally reach the point where the kids are out of the house and you're like, I'm gonna be honest. I'm done with this. You're killing yourself and me. So secrets gain momentum. The second thing that they do is secrets lead to more secrets, right? When I was in 7th grade, my friend Dwayne came to school every day, and he had welts all over his body, and he had black eyes. And I was like, bro, seriously, what is going on? And I remember the first time he told me, he was like, my dad is a boxer. He's a boxer. And so there are times where we'll just go to the gym and we'll box. And then he told me the next week, he's a boxer. He's also a kickboxer. And so we'll kickbox. And 7th grade was one secret covered up after another. And third, secrets appear worse than they really are. My psych professor in college, Dr. J. Kidwell, used to say, to the extent light is introduced, darkness is dispelled. Paul comes along, he says, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. For the fruit of the light consists in, and he uses 3 words, goodness, righteousness, and truth. In other words, you want to know what a verse feels like? That when you get someone to expose the darkness about what's really going on, about what they're really carrying, I feel the embrace of Jesus. Like, I feel it. I feel just, I don't have to carry that weight anymore. There's this ancient saying Paul quotes here. This is why it's in quotation marks. If you go to the next verse here, it says, this is why it is said. Who? This isn't from the Old Testament. There is no saying in the Bible, this saying. It's a saying from the early church. Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. You're in that relationship that you know you need to step back from and create boundaries. Wake up from the dead, sleeper. You have that addiction, and you're like, I'm gonna beat this thing. Wake up from the dead, sleeper. You're with this person, you're in this relationship, and it's toxic for them, it's toxic for, wake up, sleeper. Wake up. Like, how many people that we have in our lives that are in something, they're in the darkness, they won't bring it into the light. We're like, just wake up. If you wake up, Christ will shine on you, and you will have the fruit of goodness, righteousness, and truth. You will feel this relief. Okay. So, I want you to write this down. Your secret is someone else's salvation. The secret that you're keeping in the dark is someone else's salvation. I started by asking you a question, right? I told you the story. Either Lisa or I came out of a friend's house, pulled off the bumper, went home, and never to this day told our parents that it was one of us. Raise your hand if you think it's me. Raise your hand if you know it's my dastardly wife. Just come on. Come on, you know it is. You know it's me. You know I did that, right? But I felt terrible. Mom, I'm sorry. I did it to your car. I did it, but I had to get it. It's in the light now. It's in the light. I feel better. I hope you feel better. Because I feel better, Mom. And you'll text me later. All right. Oh, you're texting me now. Is that it? You're texting me about your car. Okay. Let me tell you two things. Whenever we interview someone here on staff for a ministry position that's going to be a pastor, where you're doing weddings and funerals and counseling and all that sort of thing, there's a little extra layer of interviewing that we do where I used to ask them this question: when the wheels are going to fall off, how are they going to fall off? Right? Like when you go through a spiral, what's going to happen? And I could never get people to open up to that question until I said, so it's me and Frank in a room with this potential staff member, I want you to tell us if something is going to go wrong in your life, what's going to go wrong? Where are the wheels going to come off? But don't say anything, let me go first. And I'll say, when I was a kid, I experienced some abuse, physically. That's made it hard for me to trust people. If someone breaks my trust, I have a hard time forgiving, which is why I wrote an entire book about forgiveness, because I struggle with it so much. When I get overstressed, I will either go into workaholism or I will go into chocolate ice cream mode. I will overeat as a way to emotionally to deal with that. When I feel that people are judging me, I have a tendency to pull way back, and create boundaries. Even my wife is like, you can't keep pulling back here. You have to trust again. You have to do this. And then I'll say, so I want you to share if the wheels are going to come off, but first, Frank, I want you to go. And then Frank will go on for like 10 minutes too. And by the time we have taken a half an hour to explain our stuff, we will say, hey, could you share now? Like when the wheels are going to come off, we want to be able to be there for you and support you. And they'll be able to do that then. Second thing, and I'll be done. We have a class here called Dynamic Marriage. We have some incredible people that lead this class. We led the first one and got a bunch of people to lead after this, and they've always done a great job. The whole class is very simple. You meet for 8 or 9 weeks. You have a curriculum that you study together, but the whole class is this. Lisa and I will stand up first. I can't confess her faults, so I can only confess my own. And I'll share 2 weeks after that first class started. My friend Bob took me out for breakfast at a breakfast spot that's in the Trap Center that is now an auto parts store. We're eating breakfast there. And he said, man, I thought this whole thing sucked. First of all, because I'm missing football on Sunday night. Second, because I just thought this was some stupid thing. But then the second week when Lisa stood up there and had tears streaming down her face, I said, yeah, we were doing the homework, and I said some unkind things. He said, I knew it was serious, and I knew it was safe. There are a lot of people that need you to be real. They need you to be real. Your secret will become their salvation. Jesus, we thank you so much for this community. We thank you that you make this a safe place. We thank you that you take our darkness and you make it become light. During Christmas, there's going to be going there and here and giving gifts, and in the midst of it, underneath the surface, we're going to feel that darkness, that tenseness. Help us to be the ones that bring light. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks for watching today's message. Make sure to check out Brian's new book, Finding Favor, God's Blessings Beyond Health, Wealth, and Happiness. To sign up for Brian's newsletter, please go to Brian's website at brianjones.com.